What if I told you that the most devastating war in ancient mythology wasn't started by a bloodthirsty king, a brilliant general, or a conquering empire? It was started by a sheltered teenage shepherd with a golden apple and a terrible track record with women. Today we're tearing into the ancient texts to uncover the real story of Paris of Troy. We are bypassing the Hollywood movies, skipping the modern retellings and diving straight into the exact words of our ancient sources. For total transparency, I'll be sharing the exact English translations we are using for every single quote today. No paraphrasing, no cutting corners. If it's on screen, it's straight from the source. We are looking at Homer's Iliad, the lost epics of the Cypria, the Roman poet Ovid, and the great Greek myth compiler Pseudo-Apollodorus. We all know Achilles, and we all know Hector. But today let's talk about the original bad boy of the ancient world, the man who traded his entire civilization for a girl. Our story starts before Paris even takes his first breath. For this, we turn to the ancient Greek scholar Pseudo-Apollodorus and his mythological encyclopedia, the Bibliotheca. Paris's mother, Queen Hecuba of Troy, had a terrifying, prophetic nightmare while pregnant. But when a second babe was about to be born, Hecuba dreamed she had brought forth a firebrand and that the fire spread over the whole city and burned it. When Priam learned of the dream from Hecuba, he sent for his son Aesacus, for he was a reader of dreams. He declared that the child was begotten to be the ruin of his country and advised that the babe should be exposed. Think about that. Before he was even born, his own brother, a prophet, looked at King Priam and said, "If this kid lives, Troy dies." So King Priam ordered the baby to be left on the desolate slopes of Mount Ida to die of exposure. But destiny in Greek mythology is a stubborn, dangerous thing. Apollodorus continues to tell us in that exact same section that the infant was nursed by a she-bear for 5 days before a shepherd found him, named him Paris, and raised him in secret. As he grew up, Paris didn't look like a royal prince, but he certainly acted like one. Frazer's translation of Apollodorus notes, "When the babe grew to be a young man, he excelled many in beauty and strength, and was afterwards surnamed Alexander, because he repelled robbers and defended the flocks." So now we have Paris, also known as Alexander, living as a gorgeous athletic herdsman. He even married a beautiful divine mountain nymph named Oenone. He was happy. He was safe. The prophecy seemed like a distant myth. But then the gods got involved. To understand how a shepherd boy in the mountains sparked a world war, we must look at the Cypria. This is the first poem in the epic cycle, a collection of ancient Greek poems that tell the story of the Trojan War. The original poem of the Cypria is lost to history, but we have a detailed ancient summary of it written by a man named Proclus. In the summary of the Cypria, Proclus describes exactly what happened at the wedding of Peleus and Thetis, where Eris, the goddess of strife, crashed the party because she wasn't invited. The gods, then, feast at the marriage of Peleus and Thetis. Strife arrives and introduces a dispute between Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite as to which of them is fairest. The three are led by Hermes at the command of Zeus to Alexandrus on Mount Ida for his decision, and Alexandrus, lured by his promised marriage with Helen, decides in favour of Aphrodite. Zeus, the king of the gods, is no fool. He knows that picking one goddess means making two immortal enemies, so he dumps the responsibility on our boy Paris. The other goddesses offered him immense political power and unmatched military victory. But Paris, thinking purely with his hormones instead of his brain, chose Aphrodite's bribe. He was promised the most beautiful mortal woman in the world, Helen. He got the ultimate prize, but by doing so he made permanent, bitter enemies of Hera, the queen of the gods, and Athena, the goddess of war. And the biggest problem of all? Helen was already married to King Menelaus of Sparta, one of the most powerful and dangerous men in Greece. Paris sails to Sparta as an honoured guest, then uses his charm and Aphrodite's favour to win Helen over. In Ovid's Heroides, Epistle 16, he writes to her, brushing off her husband entirely.
It is you I come for, you whom golden Venus has promised for my bed. You were my heart's desire before you were known to me. I beheld your features with my soul ere I saw them with my eyes.
Paris takes Helen and Menelaus's treasure for good measure and sails home. But someone was watching his ship return, his abandoned wife, Oenone. Heartbroken, Oenone writes Paris a furious letter, reminding him who he was before he was a prince.
You who are now a son of Priam were then a slave. I, a nymph, deigned to wed a slave.
Then she delivers a warning he'll ignore completely.
A Greek heifer comes to ruin thee, thy country, and thy home. Oh, beat her back.
He doesn't listen. Menelaus rages, calls the kings of Greece, and 1,000 ships launch. The firebrand is lit. This is Homer's Iliad. And if you think Paris is a tragic romantic hero, you're wrong. Homer roasts him. In Book 3, the armies face off. Paris struts out challenging any Greek champion, then the second Menelaus steps up, he shrinks back into the ranks. Even his brother Hector is disgusted.
Evil Paris, most fair to look upon, thou that art mad after women, thou beguiler, would that thou hadst ne'er been born and hadst died unwed.
Shamed, Paris duels Menelaus, and loses badly, nearly strangled by his own chin strap. He's saved only because Aphrodite intervenes. Aphrodite snatched him up, very easily as a goddess may, and hid him in thick mist, and set him down in his fragrant vaulted chamber. Even Helen mocks him for it, straight to his face.
Thou hast come back from the war. Would thou hadst perished there, vanquished by a valiant man that was my former lord.
Paris is eventually credited with killing the invincible Achilles, shooting him in the heel with an arrow guided by the god Apollo. But Paris doesn't get a happy ending. Later in the war, Apollodorus tells us in the Epitome that Paris is struck by a poisoned arrow. Dying, agonizing and desperate, he is carried back up Mount Ida, to the only person in the world who knows the cure to the poison. His first wife, Oenone, the woman he abandoned. Alexander, shot by Philoctetes with a poisoned arrow, made his way to Oenone on Ida, but she, nursing her grievance, refused to heal him. She let him die, and shortly after the city of Troy burned to the ground, fulfilling the nightmare his mother had before he was even born. Paris of Troy wasn't a mastermind. From Hecuba's fiery dream to the fateful golden apple, to Ovid's tragic letters, and finally Homer's scathing portrait of a beautiful coward, the ancient texts prove one timeless rule. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon in the world isn't a sword. It's a pretty face making terrible decisions. He was a vain, impulsive kid who never paid for anything until the very end, and even then he died begging the one woman he'd betrayed to save him. So here's the real question. Was Oenone right to let him die? Or did centuries of blaming Helen let the actual coward off the hook? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you loved diving deep into the exact, unedited historical sources with us, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe.